Hello, my name is Becca, and I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I am just going to make a little video about my life and kind of where I come from. So I was born on December 3rd, and I'm now 22 years old, and I was born in Southern California. I've lived there my whole life, and when I was about 2 years old, my dad decided to go his own direction. It was just my mother and I at that point. And 2 years later, she had another girl, so I had a sister. And 4 years after that, I had another sister. So I now have two sisters at this point. And things weren't always the best. They were, we were very poor and we moved a lot, and my mom couldn't hold a job, and it wasn't the best of times. And when I was about 10 years old, I had been taking care of my sisters, practically raising them myself, that kind of thing. And when I was about 10 years old, my mom came in to where we were watching TV and asked me if I wanted to meet somebody. And I said, sure, why not? So I went outside, and come to find it was my biological father. And I hadn't seen him in 8 years at this point, so I didn't really know what to say to him. I was just kind of like, hey, what's going on, And we talked and we visited, and I started spending weekends with him and his new family. And because he married another lady and had four more kids, so I now had 4 new siblings to play with, and it was great. I was loving it. Things were starting to look up, much better than they were before, and I really started to be excited about it. And then a little bit later, a couple months later, my mom and I got into an argument, and I got really upset because I wanted to watch Mulan, and she wouldn't let me watch Mulan. And so I thought it was an emergency, and I picked up the phone and I called 911. And about 5 minutes later, there was a knock on the door, and I was like, oh, I'm in so much trouble. So I opened the door, and there were 2 cops there. There was a dude cop and a chick cop, and I was like, oh, I'm in so much trouble. So I was really scared of what was going to happen, but what happened next changed my life forever, and my 2 sisters. So they searched the house and saw that it was absolutely filthy. There were feces and no food and roaches and mice, and it was just disgusting. And so they ended up taking my 2 sisters and I away from my mom that night, and we were put into the foster care system, and we were separated, and it was really difficult for me because things were happening and I wasn't really understanding anything, being so young, of why all this was happening and why everybody kept, leaving me and abandoning me and giving me, just letting me go and not wanting me. So it was really, really hard for me to kind of understand what was going on while I was so young. And then when I was about 13 years old, we found a family, the Grinham family, that was willing to adopt my 2 sisters and I, which was great. And because I was going to be sent to a group home at that point, and the youngest would be put up for adoption, and I'm not really sure what was going to happen to the middle child. So we rotated throughout the system for 3 years, but after that, at 13, they adopted us all, and it was fantastic. I got involved in church, and I started playing the drums, which I love, and things were really starting to look up, and it was really, really great. Until a couple of years into it, my mom that ended up adopting the 3 of us was diagnosed with lupus, and so she couldn't work anymore, and so it left my dad to support a family of 7 that my dad that had adopted me, a family of 7 in the middle class, society in California, which is really expensive. And so it brought a lot of stress on him and myself, and of course my mom, feeling sad that she couldn't really do much at this point anymore. And so I started working and helping out, pay for different things, and it was just really difficult at that point. I started to lose hope. I started to stray away from my faith, from which I didn't know much of. I'd lost all contact with my biological mother and father, so I didn't really, I was just kind of upset, and my priorities were all kinds of messed up. So when I was about 20 years old, my director of music at my church had kept urging me to check out this thing called Youth Encounter. And I was like, what's Youth Encounter? I don't want to travel and do music and whatever you're talking about. And so just to kind of put him at ease, I was like, fine, I'll check it out. So I went to the website, and I was really interested because there was a team going to Australia. And I was like, that'd be awesome. You know, I could like go on vacation and have a good old time. It'd be great. Well, little did I know, God had another plan for me. So I did the application and the audition and interview process, and I got my letter of call to serve on New Vision to Australia. And I was really excited, so I just up and left. However, as I was preparing for all of this, as I was preparing to go away, I was driving on the freeway one day, and I was falling asleep, so I wanted to pull off and take a nap so that I wouldn't, you know, crash or something. So I pulled off, and I recognized the old neighborhood, and I was like, this is my biological father's neighborhood. And I, you know, was looking for the house, but it was all blurry, and I couldn't really remember much of anything. So I saw this girl walking, and I was like, well, let me just ask, you know. And so I asked her, I was like, hey girl, come here, you know. And she came over, and she's like, yeah. And I was all, do you know the Quiros family? And she's like, yeah. She's like, I know you. And I'm like, what? And she's like, Rebecca. And I was like, Daisy? So it turns out she was my sister from my biological dad's new family. So it was just like insane that, you know, out of nowhere I found them. And so she called out to everybody in the house. Turns out they only moved across the street. When I had been told they'd moved, I didn't think across the street. So we reunited, and we talked, and we sat, and we visited, and it was just so great to kind of reconnect with them after all these years, now that I was an adult and able to understand and, you know, just kind of catch up with them. And so I decided to do a second year of team, which I am currently doing, and I'm absolutely loving it. And my Bible verse that I live by is Romans 12:12, which says, be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. And that's definitely one thing that I've learned to cling to, it is my faith. I was absolutely joyful in all the hope that the Lord gave me in finding my biological father and finding the Grinham family and pulling through and standing strong in my faith. I tried to stay patient in all the affliction of the foster care and my mom being diagnosed with lupus and, you know, just the difficult things that Satan kept throwing at me. But the thing I think that got me through was my faith and staying faithful in my prayer. And I tried as hard as I could, and the Lord pulled me through. And I know He's holding my hand, and He's never ever going to let go. So it's great. And so that's a little bit about me and where I come from. And I just have to say thank you to my aunt for kind of inspiring me since I was a little girl to know Christ. And that's my encouragement for you, is to hold on to Christ. And don't lose sight of your faith, because that's the only thing that's going to pull you through anything you may be going through. But also rejoice in the good times too, because He's pretty awesome. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.